So as soon as I say neural networks, what does the idea come in your brains? What does it ring the bell? What picture can you make when we talk about neural network? What does it ring the bell, guys? Neural network? Neurons. What does neurons mean? Neurons, nerve cells in brain. Exactly. Now, what does network mean? Interconnections between these neurons, right? That's the exact concept. All right. We're talking about this biological brain. Now, if you see this biological brain, you have the cell body wherein the information is getting stored. The cell body which holds the information. And these dendrites, these edges that you're seeing here, are called as dendrites, which collect this information. The signal is processed or collected into the cell using these dendrites. Now you can imagine that your hands, your fingers are dendrites, and you're holding a hot cup of tea. So this fingers pass the information to the brain, saying that the cup of tea is very hot. Now we will be able to bear that heat for some time. So that information, right? It is saying, okay, the cup of tea is hot, 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 hot. So this information is getting passed, and this cell body keeps on stores that information. Now there comes a point, the threshold point, where we will not be able to hold that hot cup of tea. We will not be able to bear the heat, right? So at that point of time, we have to put that cup of tea in down. So till some time, we will be able to hold on to the cup. That is based on this information that is getting loaded into the cell body. Now, once the information is overloaded here, if you are not able to hold more information, then the information is passed out as a signal to the next neuron. So this is how the information is getting processed in neurons, biological neurons, right? Now the same idea is being replicated into the computer brains. You can say algorithms. And here we talk about that network as artificial neural network, ANN. These are artificial neurons, right? And you're talking about network between these artificial neurons. Hence it is called as ANN. So in ANN models the relationship between a set of input signal, and that input signal set gives you an output. So information is getting processed. Just as a brain uses network of interconnected cells called neurons to create a massive parallel processor, ANN also uses a network of artificial neurons. Each neuron is also called as a node. Now, one thing you have to understand is the complexity of the brain. If you talk about a human brain, then it has 85 billion neurons and the interconnection between these 85 billion neurons. Now, what is the world's population, guys? Anyone? What is the world's population? Any idea? You can take a random guess. Guesswork, guys. Even for guess you have. The world's population is around 9 billion. Not even 9. Around 8, yeah. 7.6 billion. So we are getting close to 8 billion. Now we are talking about the entire globe, world's population. Now in a single human brain, look at the complexity of neurons that you can imagine. 85 billion neurons. Such is the complexity of our brain. And because of this complexity, right, such a big network of neurons, we are capable of such a knowledge, or we are intelligent. Now if you look into different animals, like cat has 1 billion, mouse has even further less. It has only 75 million. And that's the reason cat always outsmarts mouse and catches it and eats. Cockroach, look at that cockroach. It's such a small animal, right? It has 1 million neurons. Now, why we are talking about these sizes here, the numbers, is we want to make sure, right? I want to at least make you understand that building a artificial neural network with such a complexity, you generally call as humanoids, right? Robots. Coming up with an intelligent robot which can work as humans is next to impossible, and at least in another decade. Of course, we are becoming more smarter and smart. Okay, how about now? Is my voice clear? Yeah, we were talking about the humanoid like Terminator or Skynet, where artificial intelligence taking over humans is shown in those fantasy movies, right? So don't worry, such a things are not going to happen in any near future. So no Terminators, no Arnold Schwarzeneggers for us. You have to come up with such a complex network which is capable of doing so many things like humans do is next to impossible. The models or the robots that are getting developed now, right? They are consisting of only few tens or hundreds of neurons and their interconnections. That's all is possible at this point of time. So let us see what exactly is this artificial neural network. Now this is called as a black box because if you see this function, this is the neural network function. Now if you see, this is very similar to your linear regression, guys. Let me write the equation. Y of or y is equals the function of x and weight. So this is W1. Sum of the products of input with the coefficients or with the weights. This is your neural network equation, right? This is the relationship between input and output that we are talking about as part of your neurons, artificial neurons. So it's very similar to your linear regression, beta naught plus beta 1 x1, beta 2 x2, so on and so forth, right? On those lines. This neural network is termed as black box because we will not know how these weights are getting calculated. When we submit this into a code, we will receive a equation. We will get these weights numerically measured, but how those values are getting measured is kept secret. That is not getting disclosed. And there are different functions which are applied to calculate those weights based on the. Now let us see the distribution. Now, when we talk about the function of the brain, right? The example that I've set, holding the hot cup of tea, we will be able to hold that hot cup of tea for some time. But after a point, we will not be able to bear. That point is called as threshold value. So in this example, if you see, this cell body keeps on loading the data, keeps on storing the data till the time it can hold. But once this is filled, the input cannot hold it anymore longer. It has to throw. It has to throw out the result or send out the result, right? So similarly, in artificial neural network also, we will be coming up with a threshold activation function. That's exactly is this function that we are talking about. Threshold activation function, which will give you an output. Basically, we are saying that this is the threshold value. All right, we're talking about the threshold activation functions, and in artificial neural networks also we have something called as threshold activation function. And the equation that we are getting, right, the weights that are getting assigned to the equation will be assigned in such a way that the equation reaches that threshold value. So the functions are defined in such a way that it gives you an output. That functions are called as threshold activation functions. And you have different kind of threshold activation functions in neural network, right? So see, the idea is to give an output, right? We need to get an output. Now this one you're seeing is called as a unit step function. This one, we know it is a linear. This one is called as a saturated linear function. Now what is this? Where did you see this hyperbolic tangent? Where have you seen that kind of a shape, guys? Yes, sigmoid curve, logistic regression, exactly. This is also called as S-curve, right? So this hyperbolic tangent is a function, is a threshold activation function, which lies between -1 to +1.